New puppet, city, new puppet. If a city you could call it. Once much like our own cities of days and times, on a world much like our worlds, New Puppet has, by the year X negative 127, expanded recursively and maze-like across the entirety of the planet's surface, and indeed beyond. By now, the planet's once name has been lost to covetous time. Originating some millennia ago at the site of a modest hamlet, the city has become a property of itself, a self-similarity, or fractal. Ungovernable at such a scale, vast anarchic regions, pocketed by civilizations, cities within cities. The population is a byproduct or property of the city, which self-replicates according to needs seemingly their own. Few have seen the city's edge in decades. Fewer still return to their city-states, lost along the way to the labyrinth, or taken by some band of platinum blonde, assless chap-laden highwaymen. The once dominion activities of urban development and industrialization are misunderstanding or miscomprehension, a matter of fact, a thousands-year-long scheme of nature, a genetically ingrained program, the perceived individual obligations of which, under New Puppet City, New Puppet's capitalist republic system, are, in every action and transaction, purposed towards the collective project. Anthills. All of this underneath the providence of the dread beast Megalodon. Old Lady Meg, patron deity of New Puppet City, New Puppet, and midwife to the world. The beast was the first herald of what is popularly called the Great Metastization. Long prophesied by the Church of Sorcerer, the second herald came on the heels of the first, in a brotherly game of tag you are it of prophetic kind, a great magnifique flash of light from above. Some say the sky went crazy. Isn't that just crazy? And following a flash of light, a birth. For lo, for they were all of them mistaken. For the growth and development of New Puppet City, New Puppet was embryonic in nature. The population acting as single cells in the growth and development of a being, a guy. A steel and scaffold for bones guy. A concrete and glass for skin guy. A sewage system for veins guy. A neurocellular population for brains guy. A 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 guy. A buggy. The city's sonata was mournful, unskilled, and premature. For new puppets' disparate leaderships were of the too eager kind, and its population at thrice cross purpose in the face of understanding between self and other and all. So New Puppet City, New Puppet's birth was too rapid, weak foundationed, thick-blooded, and sick.
And now a depiction of the psychological integration new puppets citizen cells subtly experienced during the Great Metastization. As they became elements of a living body, each and every one a singer in the choir of the Human Municipality Project. The people of New Puppet each sang their song, which was one song, in a place strafing the physical and the psychic. So here we present an accurate as achievable estimation of the dream world turned nightmare.
The following is the story of a significant resident of New Puppet at the time of the Metastization.
Here we see one John Toot, the bastard fool of New Puppet City, New Puppet. John's is the most well-recorded and oft-recounted fatality of the great Metastization, by now a mandatory subject of study in Terran primary schooling, but the story bears repeating no less. Here we see one John Toot, resident of Block 118, Unit 20, Subunit 3, Sector of Doob, Subsector of Holiday on Doob, stretching in anticipation of a birthday video chat with a modest group of close friends. A great fan of comedy, John is wearing his false glasses nose and mustache. In the course of the year ex-negative 127, John is turning 38, 39, 40, no, 38. John had oft complained about the general disregard for pedestrian traffic in the apocalypse city of New Puppet, and begins once again to speak on this theme, for only a moment, before being overtaken by an intuitive feeling. For John was as intuitive as he was bastardly and foolish, a trait he inherited from his late father, John Toot Sr. Slowly, John turns towards his laptop computer. The chatter dies down, his guests realizing that the time has come for the time-honored tradition of John Toot's birthday joke. John removes his false glasses nose and mustache and speaks. There are 30 cows and 28 chickens. How many didn't? For a moment, there is silence, followed by confusion, then sudden recognition. Amidst the ensuing hilarity, John leans back, his joke having rung with the wisdom of age, as all comedy sits as hot air atop a stony bed of sturdy truth. Amidst this ensuing hilarity, John alone notices a growing rumble, for John was as keen and perceptive as he was intuitive, bastardly, and foolish, but no amount of hours, seconds, minutes, or indeed hours could have saved John, for in the coming moments, the great metastization occurs. we see one John Toot. Bastard, fool, intuitive, keen, perceptive. Stuck beneath his belongings, somehow still grasping his laptop computer. Unseen dusk settles. John checks the chat on his laptop computer, mercifully killing his hope. The chat is down. What happens to our John Toot in the ensuing 28 minutes? Terran scientists having confirmed the discontinuation of the network connection at precisely 1832 New Puppet Standard Time is up to speculation. Some say he lay suspended in a state of half-sleep. Some say he jade himself up. Some say he was visited upon by a cacophony of angels, devils, goblins, and fairy kind in a feverish dance. Some say nothing at all. All we know is that at precisely 1900 hours, New Puppet Standard Time, a network connection is made between John Toot and Satellite Officer First Class Paracelsus. To which John eventually responds. Here we see one Satellite Officer First Class Paracelsus, a psychic android clone of the Terran esotericist, physician, and alchemist of the same name, linguistic inventor of the known, and early pioneer of antisepsis. This iteration of Paracelsus, henceforth to be referred to as Paracelsus, functionally immortal, is the still stalwart employee of the long-defunct and dead government of New Puppet City, New Puppet, charged with the task of observing the planet from orbit as to collect data on increasingly peculiar changes on the planet's surface. John and Paracelsus speak to one another for 3 days until John passes. Paracelsus and John spoke in this manner for some time. Though Paracelsus was able to obtain the broad strokes information about the great metastization via satellite imaging, he was ultimately unable to glean very much on the ground info from John. Now, though the two spoke to one another exclusively via text chat, it should here be noted that the two spoke to one another through their respective masks. Paracelsus being a true mask of clay, John's being his false glasses nose and mustache, which was his true face, and his death mask, which lay both above and beneath the skin. So, the city is like a being, like a guy. Yes, John. Sympathetic to your own cellular bodies, you have created a macrocosm of your own form, which you have placed yourself within. Though, many say that the city looks like a robot. You've got to be robot kidding me. Haha! I like you, John. I have enjoyed our conversations. Me too, Paraguy. Two. At times, John would conjecture to Paracelsus.
There are so many levels. Like maybe we failed to create God in our image, or we succeeded. And that makes us gods relative to ourselves. And they're gods relative to whatever makes them Zubergs or whatever, and all these city bodies make up some space dude who is their god. Or maybe it goes up and down in both directions forever. And God is the system, self-similarity fractal, on which worlds within bodies within worlds within bodies are patterned.
That is a lovely conjecture, Jean.
By 12 hours the next day, things began to break down.
It's a causality model which is pretty basic at a glance. Like how all previous events narrow into any single moment or event and then radiate outwardly from that point in the shape. But then when considering light speed, it becomes the fourth-dimensional version of a Conan, whereas at the intersection between two three-dimensional cones, a two-dimensional circle is created. At the intersection between two four-dimensional cones, a sphere is created. Hey, Guy. You there?
Yes, John. My apologies. My attention was taken unawares. How are you?
I'm curious what you think about that.
About what, John?
About all that about light goes.
I apologize, John. I missed your anecdote. I do not have access to archived data on this chat. Could you reiterate?
Are you talking with someone else?
By the third day, it became increasingly clear to John, or which is to say Paracelsus, that John had been undergoing critical bodily failure.
And the answer is really not Toot. John, I must admit, for all my computer processing power, which is not unsubstantial, you have me completely and totally stumped. You must have terribly clever friends, John, to unearth the meaning behind such an elusive joke. Or would you call it a riddle? You are terribly clever, John. A terribly clever man. John, are you there? I'm making a fool of myself singing your praises, John. What a lark.
I can't see anything.
John! There you are. You've said as much, that you see naught but dust outside your window. Has the quality of the dust changed?
No, I can't see anything. Nothing at all. Not the shadow of my hand in the dark.
You say it's dark where you are, John. It is just a tad after 800 hours. The sun ought to be shining through your window, dust and all.
Actually, I'm not sure if you're moving my hand. I can't real feel it.
John? Hello, John. You're coming in clean, but perhaps the line has disconnected on your end. Are you there, John? 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 Are you there, John? 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 Are you there, John?
But as we know, John could not respond. Paracelsus repeated his inquiry, that of John, over and over and over again, until he felt that his body was somewhere behind him and a bit to the left.
tried his hand at ampersand, but he never took off his gloves. John was pure of heart with his decoupage on, in the thunder of corporate love. In his 38th year, he lied covered in gear, in the yarn and the crayons and glass. Under the waves of modeling clay, the course of the planet was run. In a hole in the sky, he saw a strange guy, clad in silver and tinsel and gum. Be not afraid, I'm Paracelsus you made, for things are not what they seem. It's good to be the best, that's left. For a fly the web